Behind every successful endeavor in life is a relationship built on trust. Welcome to The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. A podcast focused on helping you nurture healthy relationships. Join thought leader and world-renowned expert on relationship and empowerment coaching, Dr. Patty Ann, and her special guests every week for insightful and meaningful conversations filled with great takeaways that will help you build healthier business partnerships and happier romantic relationships. Are you ready to restore trust and enrich the significant relationships in your life? The Trust Doctor, Dr. Patty Ann, is in.
Welcome to today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relations. And today I am truly excited about our amazing guest. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him later. And before I do, since I know you're going to love this episode and you're going to love this podcast, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast now, right now, because once we get started with this interview, Sean is going to blow you away. You're going to get so immersed in the information that you are going to forget. So, having said that, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about today's guest, Sean Swarner. Sean is one of these people that is like an outdoors buff. He's actually coming to us today from Colorado. And he told me when we were chatting before we got on that he's headed to Africa. And I didn't want him to tell me anything else because I want you to hear that story, because everything with Sean is a story. He's what they call an Explorer Grand Slam. So he's summited all the 7 summit mountains of the world, Mount Everest in South Africa, in South America, Australia. He'll tell you all about it. And he finished the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. Now, you might be thinking, oh, big deal. I know plenty of people that are superhuman. But what you don't know about Sean that makes him extra superhuman is that he is also a cancer survivor. And he is the first cancer survivor who has accomplished everything I just said and so much more. So rather than me telling you about Sean, let me welcome Sean to our interview today. And I am beyond excited to have you as a guest today, Sean. Welcome.
This is awesome, but I'm not going to continue or say anything else until people do like and subscribe.
See, there's a reason why this man, it has superpowers. Thank you so much, Sean. All right. We teased them a little bit. So let's start with, you're headed to Africa. What could you possibly be? Are you going to like bear wrestle a leopard? Like, what are you doing?
So I have been for the past 20 trips to Africa. I have led a group up Kilimanjaro as a fundraiser for a cancer charity. This will be my 22nd trip up Kilimanjaro.
And how many years?
I would say probably 18 or 19 years. There were a couple of years I did 2 back-to-back trips up Kili. But this trip is unique, wherein we're actually turning it into what I call an inspedition. Okay, let me explain that a little bit. Everybody who shows up for the mountain thinks that they're going to conquer the mountain. When in all honesty, if it's you versus Mother Nature, she's going to kick your ass every single time. I don't care who you are, right? So you learn you don't conquer the mountain, you conquer yourself. So this is an inspedition, not an expedition. It's an inward journey with an outward adventure. And my success rate on the mountain with the groups I've been leading, we are 99% success rate. We are double the mountain's average. And I think it's because we help people find a deeper purpose, a deeper passion, which then turns into a deeper meaning.
All right, I have to ask a question. Do you vet differently for who you take?
No, I do not.
No.
I do not. I've taken people from 13 years old to 70 years old up the mountain. So anyone can go. It just turns into something deep.
Put me on the waiting list.
You know what? I will.
Oh,
no. We're going. Listen, we're going again in July. I'm going to.
Oh, goody. Wow, that is incredible. So really what you're saying is, intellectually, we know it cognitively, but every accomplishment, every success starts on the inside. So why don't you share with us your journey and, open up all your wisdom to everybody listening, because I know people are just going to be I'm just blown away, and I've just met you.
I appreciate that. And I'll go back to kind of back towards your intro. And also for people who are watching, I apologize for the hat and the hair. I'm letting it grow because I'm leaving, like I said, for Africa in 4 days. So if when I come back and we do a follow-up, I will look so much better.
You are on. Are you commit? When you coming back? What month?
Well, we're probably sometime in March. We're leaving February 1st. And then after the trip, I'm actually going to visit my wife. She's going to Puerto Rico. We talked about that before we started recording. She's from Puerto Rico, born and raised down there. Not, as we said before, I'm Puerto Rico, born in Brooklyn. She's Puerto Rico, born in the Caribbean. So before meeting me, her idea of adventure was going to the beach without a bottle of rum. So she now loves Colorado. But I'm coming back and visiting her and her family for a while. So probably the beginning 2 weeks of March is when I'm coming back home.
Okay, so I'll assume that you'll have a couple of emails to get through. So I'll book you in April.
That sounds great. Love it.
Are you committed? All right, everyone listening, this is the commitment. When Sean says he's going to do something, game on. High five.
I also heard you say that you were going to go up Kilimanjaro.
I said waiting list. Let's be clear. I said I'm on the waiting list.
Well, what's it going to take to change your mind?
We'll talk after. We'll talk offline.
When it's not recorded.
When it's not recorded.
Okay.
But I could be convinced. My daughter really wants to do it, by the way.
Great mother-daughter bonding experience.
We shall see. All right. So tell us about your amazing journey, your life. Take it from wherever you want to start.
I will back up to your intro and say that I am the only person, not just the first cancer survivor, I am the only person in history to climb Mount Everest, the highest mountain on every continent, ski to both the North and South Poles, and complete the Hawaii Ironman triathlon. I just happened to do it after surviving 2 terminal cancers, a prognosis of 3 months to live, 14 days to live. I was read my last rites. I was in a medically induced coma for a year of my life, and I only have 1 fully functioning lung. But the only difference between me and anybody else on the planet is that I might have a warmer jacket.
Okay, so clearly you're being humble, because we know there's a lot more different about you. And maybe the difference is that it's something everybody has, but you access it. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Everybody has it within them. Yeah, boom. Everybody has it within them to accomplish tremendous things if we stop believing the excuses we tell ourselves. And if we also have a deeper purpose. How to find that purpose is understanding what your personal core values are, so you have a path to move forward, and understanding that it's not about the mountain summit. It's not about the North Pole. It's not about the South Pole. It's not about crossing the finish line. It's not about the new car. It's not about the new house. It's not about the $1 million. It's about what that represents to you that goes back to one of the core values that you're supporting.
Okay.
So if you have any goal and you're attaching, you think it's about the new Ferrari. That new Ferrari is going to get old and rust and get dusty. Mm-hmm. But what's not going to ever change are your personal core values and how you feel about something.
Okay. So before you go any further, I just had a thought when you said that, because so much of my work with companies of all sizes has to do with what are your core values, right? So what are the essence of the core values that you have that people need to tap into? Because I look at the core values as somebody's North Star, right? One of the reasons, in my humble opinion, why I think we have so much consumerism in this world is because people buy something looking for purpose, looking to look good, to feel better, to maybe show off a little bit, to show success. And what happens is, and there's a neurochemistry behind this, right, Sean, where there's an uptick of, I think it's the dopamine, you probably know better than me, right? And you feel good for a while.
That instant, for that moment.
And then you come down and guess what? Now you need another purchase or you need another thing. So address that and its relevance to all you've achieved.
When you're told you have 14 days to live, and when you're laying in the hospital bed and the man of the cloth comes in and reads your last rites.
So you're Catholic. It's Catholic?
No, I'm Christian. Yeah, let's say Christian.
Okay.
When that happens, you look at life a little differently. You realize you start questioning things. And one of the things that I questioned as a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old when I had my cancers.
So your first diagnosis was at 13. You had this wisdom at 13.
Well, I was forced to. I mean, I remember being 60 pounds overweight, bald from head to toe, on my hands and knees, sobbing while the water in the shower was filling up because my hair was clogging the drain. You know,
falling out.
Absolutely. And I remember that I had two choices. I could fight for my life or give up and die. You know, so from 13 to 18 years old, I essentially had cancer. And those are the developmental years of your life. So when you're faced with your own mortality at such a young age, you look at life a little bit differently. You have a different perspective. You understand what's important. So when my friends were chasing girls and collecting baseball cards and worrying about...
Wait, are you going to tell me girls aren't important?
I'm married now. I can't say that too loudly. No, they're important. What I developed as a value, being popular in high school, I didn't care about that. And when I was such a young age, I didn't understand why so many people are more concerned about what others think of them than what they think of themselves.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the pre-cancer diagnosis, Sean? And then, so at 13, prior to your diagnosis, did you have that wisdom then? Or was there a radical transformation? And it's not a trick question, folks. I really don't know the answer.
Right. Before I had the cancers, I was always an athlete. Okay. I was a swimmer. And from my mom and my dad, really nice.
Yeah.
So you'll appreciate this. When I was younger, 8 and under, YMCA swimming, when I would swim the 25-yard or 25-meter breaststroke, touch the wall, and I would look up, and either mom or dad would always be there to pull me out of the water, right? Put the towel around me, and they would always ask me 2 questions. 1, did you have fun? And 2, did you do your best? Not, hey, why didn't you beat Johnny? Why didn't you beat Jim? It was, did you have fun and did you do your best? Because at such a young age, they taught me I never had to be the best. I had to be my best. And by pushing myself a little bit further today than I did yesterday, I would become the best. Because I was setting my bar to myself. I wasn't comparing myself to others. I wasn't getting lost in what other people wanted. And I think by doing that, it really helped me focus on me, not the outside world. I was living in my own little bubble that I wanted to get bigger and bigger and bigger and then bring people in. So looking at it before the cancers, I was taught by my mom and my dad, and I was empowered by them to focus on me. But at the same time, obviously giving back, because one of my personal core values is charity. And it was always to be a humble winner, always to be a good loser, but always to be the best person I could be. Not the best person that someone else wanted me to be. Don't go after someone else's goals. Go after what I wanted to go after.
Okay, so that's your foundation. So you're being a competitive swimmer and you're being a normal teenage boy, whatever that means. And then you get this diagnosis that must have been like, wait, you must have the wrong person.
Oh, flipped my world upside down. And it took everything I was doing, and literally it was like the remote control on life hit pause. The world kept zipping by. My friends still kept living. They kept moving forward when I was literally stuck in a hospital. I went through the treatments for a year and a half the first time around. Second time around, like I said, I was in a coma for a year. So I don't even remember being 16 years old. Granted, a lot of people wish they could probably forget being 16, but I don't have that opportunity. But if you look at, no matter what you're going through, no matter how traumatic the situation is, there's always a silver lining, and there's always an opportunity to improve. There's always a way to look at it from the perspective of there are no obstacles, only opportunities. And I saw it as an opportunity to strengthen myself every day. and be grateful. That was, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was one of the things I think that really helped me along at the end of each night. So let's just pretend that every night you're going to bed, you are terrified to close your eyes because you don't know if they're ever going to open again. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to going to bed thinking, oh my God, I didn't do this, I should have done that, I forgot to do this. Every single night I went to bed, I was grateful for the things I was able to accomplish.
Did you keep a gratitude journal, or you just had it in your brain?
At that age, it was in my brain. Now, I made my own journal, and I write down every evening 5 things I'm grateful for, and then I finish the sentence. I fill in the blanks. From the above, I am grateful for blank because blank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you take it deeper. It's why you're grateful and why you're grateful for it. And we know now there's neuroscience behind that. You create a new neural pathway, and we also know the number one road to happiness is gratitude.
Bingo.
Absolute gratitude. So who was your support system during that time? Obviously your parents. So how did they support you? Did you have siblings? Did you have friends? Like who gathered around you? Because even though we have to face these things, face our fears alone, as you said, outside, who we surround ourselves with is imperative. I've talked to physicians that have said, and I think you'll agree with this, that cancer has never killed a patient. They get tired of fighting.
I would agree with that. And I think a lot of people, it goes back to a quote. I think it was Henry Ford, who said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Right.
And with the 2 cancers I had, again, I never focused on not dying. I focused on living. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And developing those neural pathways of focusing on opportunity. Because how many entrepreneurs get into business and think to themselves, oh, don't lose money. No, you want to make money. So wherever your attention is focused, wherever your energy is going is what's going to happen, where you're going to get. Exactly. So going back to that 13-year-old.
That's a place of abundance too, as opposed to scarcity. I tell people all the time, when Johnny goes up to bat, you don't say, don't strike out. You say, keep your eye on the ball.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, right?
Yes. And so many people don't understand how true that is. Mm-hmm. You're running a marathon, or you're running, whatever it might be. You're telling your legs, hey, don't stop. What happens? You stop.
Right.
Yes. The same thing with climbing mountains. I'm climbing the highest mountains in the world with one functioning lung. People thought it was physiologically impossible. Mm-hmm. And I don't tell myself, don't stop. I tell myself, keep climbing. In fact, every step I take, one step is the higher I go, the other one is the stronger I get. The higher I go, the stronger I get. The higher I go, the stronger I get. I have a mantra when I'm up in the mountains. So that's the
mantra, the higher I go, the stronger I get?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the little successes that build on each other, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, if it goes back to having a deeper purpose, it gives your life more meaning. And when you have more meaning, you have more passion. I mean, like I said, I've been up to the top of Kilimanjaro now. This will be my 22nd trip. We're taking a group of CEOs to show them that they can do it as well and give them that purpose.
Do you have like an Eskimo exclusive club up there?
No.
It comes again? Frequent flyer?
Right. We should. That's a great idea. But when we do get up there, I don't care how strong. We have a guy who was an active duty Marine who yes, right? Big, tough, strong dude. He was up there in tears. The
Marines, what you said, and whenever I speak to entrepreneurs, I do tend to think of the Marines a lot. And I'm a big pro-military person, full disclosure. My son is active duty Navy now. My husband was in the Navy, but they have that motto, be the best that you can be. So they talk about the individual responsibility, but my Lord, they know that you are part of a team, right? So once a Marine, always a Marine, and there's that pride attached to it. So, and that's what you're saying when you bring people up. They're each individually responsible, but the focus is on the group helping each other, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Because whenever you're going up, and you're suffering. You're essentially a walking zombie at 3 a.m. because we've been going for 4 hours and it's 10 below zero. And I know I'm selling this really well, so you're not going to go, but
I'm taking notes, but go ahead.
But when you're a walking zombie and you're exhausted because of the altitude, if somebody's feeling stronger, they can take something from your pack, and that might switch the next day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I might feel exhausted if somebody's going to come up and take my pack. You support each other, but it's your responsibility to will yourself to put one foot in front of the other. No one's going to make you or help you put literally one step after another. But as a whole, a team, you move cohesively together and help one another make it to the top of the mountain, which is your common goal.
Mm-hmm. The power in the numbers.
Absolutely. And everybody might have a different reason. You know, we have a guy who just found out his grandmother has just been diagnosed with cancer, and he's thinking about canceling the trip. And I told him this would be a great way to have deeper purpose for the trip. Mm-hmm. Grab a picture of her, take it to the top, and then take a picture with you and her at the summit and go back and share that with her.
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. Is he going to do it?
We're trying. He just found out today.
Well, what's his if you know a little bit about the grandmother, you can use some of her language and give it and feed it to him, right?
Right, absolutely.
You have to know, you have to know a little bit about her. So let me take you back a little bit, only in the service of moving forward. So you wake up and you went to sleep. It's a little bit like Sleeping Beauty. You went to sleep at 15 and then you woke up at 17. Correct?
Pretty much, yeah. 13, I had the first cancer for about a year. Then 14, I was in remission. 15, almost 16 years old. Bam, I got hit again.
Okay. So you wake up and WTF?
Exactly.
What happens? It says rated R.
Exactly. Well, that's essentially what happened. The first time I didn't, hindsight, I don't think I've truly understood what I was going through at 13. The second time around, 16, 17, I understood what it meant to potentially die. I understood what it meant to not have any support. You know, going back to your question, I had my family, my brother, I have one younger brother, and the community and the doctors and the nurses. You know, everyone rallied around me to push me forward. And when I had those deep, dark days, which everybody does, you know, I'm not Superman. Everybody has a dark day. You just have to understand it's a temporary condition, not a permanent state. So I knew that was going to pass. But also knowing and seeing how my friends were at this point dating girls and going out driving and having some fun, you know, I could potentially get sick and die of the common cold because of my compromised immune system. So my life was on pause. However, I knew that there was more to it. I was so young, but I developed, like I said earlier, a different perspective on life. And even going through something that traumatic, I realized that it was building me to become a stronger, more resilient person. I was working on my resiliency muscle.
So even though it sounds like what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, even though you weren't living the life that you thought a teenage boy should be living, driving fast cars, dating girls, whatever, right? You were able to have the wisdom to see, but you had your life.
I would say that's very correct. But I also would say that I don't think anyone lives the life that they think they're going to live anyhow.
Were you aware of that back then?
I don't think so. I think that I just saw it as this was my life. And like everybody, I asked myself when I got diagnosed the first and second time, why me? Why me? You know, as you said, this is R-rated. Why the F me? But that wasn't going to change the facts. That wasn't going to change and get rid of the cancer. So asking that question, even looking back at it now, there's no way I would know. But that was the fact. That was what was going on. I had cancer. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to sit and wallow in my own pity? No, I'm going to move forward and get on with my life.
So you remind me of the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Did you read that?
I didn't read it, but I will put it on my list.
Okay. Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the concentration camps. And he went on to become a psychiatrist, and he wanted to understand who survived the concentration camps. You'll actually love this. It's an easy book, short, You'll love it. And because they found out that it wasn't the guys that were best in shape, it wasn't the strongest, the biggest, the smartest. What he found out, there was one common denominator, and that was people that survived found a meaning to their life. They had a purpose. Here's the example. One of the examples he gives. There were twin girls, and I can't remember if they were 12 years old when they were released from the concentration camps, or they were 12 years old when they went in. It doesn't matter, but they were twins and they were in there together. And each of them separately was interviewed by Viktor Frankl. And they both said the same thing. They said, I had to live because if I died, it would have killed my sister. Huh. So their reason for living was not themselves. And it was the other. Anything like that true for you?
I would say absolutely. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
I see that. Yeah. What did I touch? I don't want to make you awkward, but let's go.
No. That's perfectly fine. Because thinking back to the first cancer, I think one of the reasons I continued fighting was because there was one night I pictured my mom and my dad living a life without their firstborn son.
As a parent, I can't picture that. Yeah.
So I think that, I didn't want to die. I kept surviving because I couldn't picture how much pain my parents would go through if I died.
Do they know that?
I think my mom does. Yeah.
Oh, I think they should more than think. I think you need to make sure they know that. That is such a gift. Are you a parent, Sean?
Not that I know of.
That's what my husband used to say. My point is that is such a gift for you to give your parents.
Oh, absolutely.
Share that with them.
Yeah, I do need to share it with them. And I talking about the twins, I think that really hit home because I know that was one of the reasons why I kept fighting.
Yeah.
For my parents and my family.
That's incredible. So you get out, you're done with the cancer, right? You beat it. And then you have like this, 5 years? Like, the medical community has all these arbitrary,
right.
I don't even know what to call it, hoops you have to jump through before they give you permission to get on with your life. So take us from that journey.
Well, I graduated from high school. Then I went and turned into Belushi from Animal House in college.
Food fight. We might be dating ourselves, just depending upon the ages of the people.
Yes.
Right. Animal House was John Belushi and the famous toga food fight. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a line in there. He said something like, "Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?" He's like, "Germans." He's like, "Let him go. He's on a roll." So I graduated.
Now, what did you do? Did you go back into the brick and mortar school? Did you do it on? They didn't have online, but a GED or whatever.
I graduated. I got my high school diploma, and then I went to college, Westminster College in Pennsylvania, a small liberal arts school. I started off molecular bio, thinking I was going to cure cancer and splice genes and play God. And I took
until you got to organic chemistry. No, just joking.
Actually, it was immunology and OChem. Yes, absolutely. And it's so difficult to pass those classes if you don't open a book.
I just imagine that.
God, who knew?
Good Lord.
So I switched.
Wait. That's how it works?
Yeah, okay. Right. But I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
No, I was forcing myself into something. I was trying to put a round peg in a square hole. It didn't work.
You know what I think you might have been trying to do? Go with me here.
Yeah.
It seems like you went through, positive or negative, a traumatic experience, right?
Absolutely.
And it sounds like maybe the molecular biology route was your first attempt at finding meaning in that. But as you know, as an entrepreneur, we don't always hit it right the first time. So maybe that's what you were doing.
I think it was me trying to understand why it happened, because I did some research and I actually found back in 93 that EBV, the Epstein-Barr virus, causes some sort of lymphomas, right? And now it's well known. And I figured that out. I didn't have my doctorate at the time. I didn't publish any papers, but I did a lot of research and found that they were potentially connected.
So you had Epstein-Barr. Did you know it?
Yeah.
Did you know it?
Yeah, I got mononucleosis from one of my girlfriends back in high school.
Oh yeah, right. That was it. That must have been it. One of the long lines.
Yeah. So but then I switched to psychology, and I found that I had a deeper purpose. And I wanted to compare. I think my senior thesis was looking at life perspective and outcome of cancer. Meaning, if you go into it with an optimistic point of view, or if you go into it with a pessimistic point of view, who has a better quality of life on the other side? But no studies have ever shown that. I mean, it's completely obvious, but no science, no numbers have shown that. And I
You
did
graduated. What year did you graduate?
graduated college
93?
90. No, high school is 93. Supposed to be 92. But I graduated 93 because of the whole mix up, couldn't go to college, couldn't go to high school thing for a year.
Right.
And 97 I graduated college.
So the reason why I'm asking is because the neuroscience that I am so into now and that we know of, the art of impossible, right? Peak performance. I'm sure you're familiar with that. That was probably, and I might be speaking online, but I would imagine that was in infancy. So now, of course, we know the mindset you have going into something, duh. But back then, it was foo-foo back then, at least for modern medicine.
Right. This blows a lot of people's mind. And still looking back at it, blows my mind. But in 88, when I was 13, going through the first cancer, I visualized myself inside my body destroying the cancer.
Oh, sure. It's so funny you say that, because I was literally, as you were speaking, just thinking of, I was going to draw it, that now we have people draw the cancer and attacking it. And as an athlete, I think it was Paul O'Neill from the New York Yankees that was one of the first pro athletes that used visualization for batting practice. He would picture the bat hitting the ball in his mind's eye X amount of times before he ever picked up the bat, right? Because you're creating the neural pathway. Wow.
I did that to beat both of the cancers, and I pictured myself in a little tiny microscopic spaceship flying around my blood vessels.
The magic school bus, remember that?
Yes. It was essentially just like that, but I was firing laser beams and missiles laden with chemotherapy into the cancer cells. And then I also took that furthermore into when I went up to go climb Everest and every other mountain. I would visualize myself first person point of view, taking the last few steps to the summit of Everest, where I would go even further, where I'd smell the ozone. I would hear the styrofoam crunching of the snow under my feet, use all my senses. And then what people don't realize is that you have to have an emotional attachment to it. So how did I feel up there? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between vivid visualization and reality. So you have to, even before you begin, you have to know you're successful.
Well, it's, and what you just said is that's why all the negative talk inside and the external, when we say negative things about ourselves, our brain doesn't know the difference if it's true or not. So if you speak to yourself in a way you would never let anybody else speak to you, right?
Absolutely.
Your brain, oh, I'm a failure, I'm so dumb. Well, self-fulfilling prophecy.
I actually, I was doing a little bit of work with a group of high school students. I think it was last year. And I asked them a question. It's like, who do you talk to more than anyone else throughout the day? And obviously the answers were like, oh, my mom, my dad, my best friend. I was like, and then one kid.
Well, we don't talk, they text, but go ahead.
Right. And then one student said it. It's like, myself. It's like, exactly how much of that self-talk, I call it the internal dialogue. Mm-hmm. How much of that internal dialogue is negative? And they're like, I don't know, 75, 80%. I'm like, exactly. And then I continued the question. Like, would you be friends with someone who is that negative to you? Then why do you do it to yourself?
And how'd they react?
Oh, it was like his head blew up. Like you said, boom. He was just like, my God, I really need to focus on that. Because human beings are creatures of habit, yes, but we are also, that old saying, you are what you eat, you are what you consume. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you're constantly consuming negativity and your negative internal dialogue is 80% self-defeating, what do you think is going to happen to yourself? You always, people say, oh, I want to be stronger, I want to do this. And then they think to themselves, when they go into a situation, don't stutter. Don't be scared.
Right.
You know,
don't strike out.
Don't strike out. Exactly. As opposed to be tall. For example, you're walking down the street telling yourself, don't trip. You're going to fall on your face.
Right.
But if you tell yourself, stand tall, walk strong, it changes your whole life.
Well, it's like, think about the people, and I'm more and more aware of this, but the people that are so negative, how you doing today? All right, but or a better example, oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful day. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. I'm like, hello, there's always a negativity. Was that rum in that? Was there rum in that? I'm just curious. I'm just curious because I noticed you were you didn't want to spit it out, so didn't think you wanted to waste it.
It's ginger water with some curcumin in there and some.
Okay. Good. Prepping for the summit. I get it. But that just being around people that are like that, it's toxic. Like sometimes I'm around people and I literally feel like I need to take a shower, like literally, because it's just gross. And and I'm sure you feel this way, when I work with clients, almost with the first conversation, I know who's got the mindset and who needs a new mindset, right? The person, it's all about relationships. It's all about connections. And, who wants to hear negative feedback? But that's where you learn. And I'm almost like, okay, tell me. I wish I wasn't like that, because I work with people like, that's great. Thank you. Let me work on it. Let me look at it. So how do you bring that to your work and the people you help? Because if people can't learn from you, they are a lost cause.
A great way to answer that is to just give an example. And it's almost, you almost hit that too. I was thinking, she's going to get it.
Oh, damn, I missed it.
You ask someone, hey, how's your day going? Oh, it's an awful day. My day sucks. It's horrible. I never have a bad day. If I'm having a quote unquote bad day, just the response is different. I have a less than ideal day. And so many people don't understand how much it affects them. Just saying, oh, hey, how's your day going? It's all right. It's less than ideal. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. It's less than ideal. And if you just look at it from that perspective and start looking at it from just a different angle, you can change your whole life. But you have to be mindful of how you talk to yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to catch yourself. And if you look at what hold people back, there are usually four things. I call them the gales: the gremlins, the interpretations, the assumptions, and the limiting beliefs. And
is that an acronym? Gremlins, interpretation, assumptions, and Gale. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I call them the gales, right? So the first one is the most difficult, and we'll just talk about that one. It's the gremlin. It's that little guy on your shoulder, or little girl, whatever. You're not strong enough to do that. You're not smart enough to do that. You don't have the education. You don't have the experience. And I think that the gremlin was there. I call mine Cooper. His name's Cooper. And I think he was there at one point in someone's life in your past to help you, to protect you. However, now that we're older, I tell him, if I start hearing him, just bitching in my ear, you can't do that. I'm like, listen, Cooper, shut up, dude. First of all, I pay attention to that. Time out. That's enough. Yeah. Well, then I tell him, look, you were here at one point in my life to protect me. However, we're working together because we both want what's best for me.
So hang on a second. So that protection, because our defenses initially protect us. They're adaptive and then they become maladaptive. So how do you take Cooper and that protected you, but now that same protection is holding you back? How do you do that?
How do I move forward with that protection or without that protection? Okay.
He's presenting it as, I'm going to protect you, and you're feeling it like an albatross around your neck.
Right. I tell him that we both want what's best for me. We both want me to be successful. And I'm not talking like, if you have these voices in your head, you need to be, in a tight jacket and a round room.
We have a diagnosis for that.
Right. So, like, I'm not having a legitimate conversation with this guy.
Yeah.
But, I know you're here at one point in my life to protect me. However, we both want what's best for me. Why don't we work together?
Interesting. So you don't take the approach, but I know what's best for me, not you. You don't take that approach. You take the we.
Because at one point he was there to protect me. Right. And I know that you're probably sending a car right now to pick me up there to take
honk, me. Honk.
Yeah. Don't worry. Those people are your friends, Sean.
And Cooper's there. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Cooper's gone. Like,
adios.
You're on your own now, dude. No, but we are working together because at one time he was there to protect me. And probably for me, it was when I was sick and I was 60, 70 pounds overweight. And I was going to try to hop back in the pool to swim one dual meet so I could qualify for championships, because I was undefeated swimming. And I made it to nationals numerous times. And he was there looking at us in the mirror when I put on that so flattering Speedo, and I was bulging out everywhere because I was 60 pounds overweight. He's like, you're not going to do this. Why? Because you're embarrassed. No, I'm not. I want to do this. So I forced myself to push forward. And now I look at something like on Aconcagua, the highest mountain in South America. I had a panic attack. I'm
really?
days. Yeah, I was days away from any village. Right. So I'm sitting there freaking out. I remember very vividly. I was sitting in a tent. There were two tents. We had one group here, one group here. So basically 2 people. So 4 people.
And you're leading this group, I take.
No, I was going up. We were just together. It was just a guided group, essentially.
Okay. So I think you should clarify that. That's good for everybody to know that's thinking about joining you.
No, yeah. So we're good. I don't do Aconcagua. I just lead up Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain.
Okay.
And there's nothing technical about it. It's a hiking trip.
Okay.
I remember being in the tent eating, and all of a sudden I could feel my respiratory, get more and more up in my upper chest as opposed to breathing through my diaphragm, which I've taught myself my whole life, because after losing that lung, I need to utilize the one that I have.
Right. Efficiently. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I started freaking out, and I put my bowl down. I went into the next tent where my sleeping bag and sleeping pad was. I laid down, went to sleep, and woke up, and I was okay. I still to this day have no idea where it came from, why it happened, what the trigger was, but it happened. So
had you had anxiety attacks before that? Because a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with suffer from anxiety. Okay, can I do this with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, as much as you can remember, what you were doing the day before and the morning or the day of the anxiety attack. Just whatever you remember.
We were moving from. So I'll break it down. The mountain was 1, 2, 4 camps before we went to the summit. We were at base camp, moving to camp 2. And then one of the guys had a serious breathing issue. I had to carry a double load. So I had my backpack on my back and his pack on my front. So I was literally carrying probably 80, 90 pounds up in altitude to set up that camp. And then we went from that camp to the next camp, and I was exhausted because of I did that twice. So there were actually 2 people who that happened to. And then we went up towards the other camp, and I was just exhausted. So maybe it was just from, as my dad would say, burning the candle at both ends. But I think I was physiologically spent.
I have a different interpretation.
Okay, I'd love to hear. Yeah.
I'm not saying that wasn't a factor, but I think it might have had more to do with the reason behind you carrying the backpacks. I think if the person hurt their leg or their arm, you would have been good to go. But it might have touched into something deeper where they couldn't breathe. And it might have triggered something that you worked so hard to keep Cooper in check on without being aware of it, for whatever it's worth. How does that feel when I say it? If it feels like,
It kind of feels like that. But there also could be some truth to it. I'm trying to see now, going back to it. I think it taps more into my fear of failure.
The fear. It's absolutely the fear of the failure of the one healthy lung not working. but you were more in touch with the physical manifestation of fear, because we know that our body's physical symptoms remember what our mind's forgotten. So what happened when you had the anxiety attack? Were you hyperventilating, or could you not catch your breath? Which one was it?
I didn't really hyperventilate either. So
could you catch a deep breath?
I could catch a deep breath, but it was more a mental thing. It was more that I was just getting really, really scared.
Yeah, I did.
More than anything else.
Right. But so fears are, unconsciously based. Anyway.
Well, and now I know there are a handful of tools that I use now. One is I acknowledge and validate. So I acknowledge the fact that it's there, and I validate that, hey, it's happening. It's not going to be there forever. And more often than not, when people try to fight something like that, it gets worse.
Got to go through it. Got to go in it.
Yes.
It's just like a tightness. When you're going through hell, you keep going.
Right. It's a perceived fear. I was in no danger. It was a perceived fear that my mind made up. That Cooper.
Most anxiety is irrational.
Exactly. So another perfect example is, for years I would go in for my checkup because no one's ever had these two cancers before. I will never be cured. Every single time I go in once a year for blood work, and that's when the doctors say, "Hey, you got another year on life." So it used to be that the 6-letter word cancer would cause fear, and then I realized, what the hell? And why the hell am I allowing this 6-letter word to have control over me? So then I realized that one way to get rid of it was I went to the bathroom and I stared myself in the mirror and I just said, cancer, 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 cancer. I said it 30 times, finally just getting it out. And it, like right around 2025, I started laughing at myself. Like, what the hell are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then I realized that, hey, there's no reason I should allow something like a word to have control over my emotions and my feelings.
So were you, by that exercise, were you facing the reality of cancer or trying to have it loosen its grip on you?
Yes, I was lessening its control over me. With each passing word that I said, cancer, even now, when people hear the word cancer, they shudder. But it's not such a bad thing.
No, they don't even, no, they whisper it. He's got cancer.
Yeah, but he has the C word.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to focus a little bit on that anxiety is because I want the listeners to realize that you are as human as every single person listening here, right?
Remember, I told you the only difference between me and anybody else is I have a warmer jacket.
Exactly. So what do some of the people need to embrace that they might not know they need to embrace so that they can live their best life, live their core values? What are the things you want people to learn, to take away from this conversation? Because there are not many people that have had the life experiences and the triumph through the tragedy that you've had. So what are some real practical, concrete skills people can take away?
So that's a great question. And just about a month ago, I was up on stage giving a keynote presentation in front of about 1,500 people. And as I was wrapping up, I just decided to throw in a curveball. And I stopped and I asked people, hey, by a show of hands, how many people have actually taken time out of their lives to write down their personal core values? What matters most to you? I think out of 1,500 people, 5 raised their hands.
And were they entrepreneurs in the audience?
They were all doctors.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, and then I continued by saying, how can you move forward in life without knowing what matters most to you? How can you make conscious choices without understanding what you value most? And I told him, look, I put together a core values assessment. Send me an email. I will send it to you. After that, I think I got 300 people which actually is pretty good in a number like that.
Yeah.
Usually it's like 2 who do something, but I got about 300 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to copy and paste an email, just copy, paste, send, but they all got it. And now they have a list of personal core values. In fact, I have mine right here. I do it every 3 weeks.
Oh, I would like to get a copy of that.
Shoot me it. And what I do is I take it one step further, because this is a core values assessment. Mm-hmm. And on the other side is how I have people pick out their top 10 personal core values and then rank and rate how they're actually living each one of those values.
My core value as evidenced by.
Correct.
Right.
And it's usually very eye-opening because people say, oh, family is one of my personal core values.
Yep.
How much are you actually walking the talk?
Right.
Cut the BS. It's between you and yourself. And on a scale of 1 to 10, if you value family it should be a 10.
How much time is on your calendar? Because we schedule what's important to us.
Exactly.
And if you don't schedule family time in today's world, you probably won't have it.
Absolutely. And if you don't use it, you lose it. I mean, imagine just seeing the dentist once every year without brushing your teeth every day.
You lose it.
What's going to happen to relationships? What's going to happen to family?
Awesome. Okay. So know your core values. 2.
Wow. How many are we going to do?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
I want to keep you guessing.
I'll say the second one would be mindful. Be aware that if you're driving in traffic or if anything negative happens to you, pay attention to your ears. How do they feel? Actually, you know what? Let me back up. A lot of people don't even understand what being mindful is. So let's try something right here. Okay. What I want you to do, and everybody listen, I want you to, or watching, is pick out 5 unique separate sounds when I'm done talking. So just kind of go through your mind and just listen for 5 unique different things and say that to yourself. Like, hey, I hear Roomba downstairs banging things around. I hear the alarm. My wife just opened the front door. Say that to yourself. Pick out 5 things that are unique sounds around you. Go. And that's practicing informal mindfulness, bringing yourself to the present moment. Because when we talked about being anxious, that's when people live in the future. When people are depressed, they're living in the past. But when you're mindful and you're focused on the present moment, all that stuff goes away. Nothing really matters.
Okay, so can you tie that into being intentional?
Yes, and it obviously depends on what you're trying to do in the moment. And I'll go back to going up Kilimanjaro just because that's on my mind right now because we're leaving in a few days.
Sure.
Again, on summit night.
Is that the first night or the last night?
That's day 5, night 5, morning 6. So we wake up at 11 p.m., leave at midnight, and we hike until 6:30 or 10 a.m. because it all depends on how slow or fast the group's going. And at one point in the night, you will be a walking zombie. You will not be able to think properly because your brain is hypoxic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not getting
lack of oxygen.
Exactly. And that's when I understand that people are motivated. You have to understand people are motivated by different things. And before we leave, I have people fill in this blank. And I actually give them a bracelet with this on there, stamped on there. When you're a walking zombie, what one word is going to continue pushing you forward? I am blank. Because that blank, whatever you fill in there, whatever word, I'll ask you, if you're just absolutely spent, what's one word that you could fill in that blank that would remind you instantly to continue putting one foot in front of the other? I am blank.
As soon as you said it, the word that came to my mind is strong.
Strong. There you go. So that would help people because everybody's motivated by different things.
Mm-hmm.
I would go up behind that person like, hey, what are you? And you'll be like, what do you mean? What am I? You know, I'm a human being. I was like, no, what's on your bracelet? What do you say to yourself? I am strong. And that's your reminder to be in the present moment. People then are singing around.
Even with the hypoxia, people can recall that.
Absolutely. Because and if they don't remember, it's right there.
Right there.
Yeah. So that would help them be intentional on why they're on the mountain and what gets them moving forward.
Okay. So the gremlin, mindfulness, intention. Did you have A or E for Gail?
I. Yeah.
I never won the spelling bee, whatever.
Those would be interpretations. And those are, you look at something and most of us learn from the past, like your parents. It takes money to make money.
Right.
We all know that's not true sometimes. It's not a universal law. Mm-hmm. And you just have to relearn that. And also the past doesn't necessarily make who your future is going to become.
Oh, good Lord. I hope not for most people. Right?
Exactly.
It informs your future, but it doesn't define it.
Exactly.
Right.
Your future hasn't been written.
Right. And that's where you have the control. Awesome. So anything else you'd like to share before I want you then to tell everybody how they can find out about you and tell us about your upcoming, your published book, right? And of course, Here's a no-brainer for the title, Keep Climbing, How I Beat Cancer and Reached the Top of the World.
We have a new one.
Being Unstoppable. Oh my goodness. I did not know that. When did that come out?
Just last month. I will send you a copy.
Oh, okay.
Send me your address. It's called.
Oh my God. I'd love it. Thank you. I read all the books people send me. I cover to cover.
Fantastic. Yeah. This is called Being Unstoppable, Conquering Your Everest. And it's part of the 7 series that I'm working on.
Of course.
Well, it's a 7 summits. So I learned on each one of the peaks that made me think back to how I became stronger. The first one, this one helps people with visualization. The second one I'm working on is Kilimanjaro into the self. So you have
love
to
that.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so how can people find out about you? Where would you like them to go?
Oh, come on. That's the easiest question I've had since we started talking.
I don't want you to say I never gave you a favor.
That's simple. SeanSwarner.com. Just like Sean Connery, the proper way, SEAM. And then just like the Warner Brothers, but slap an S on the front, SeanSwarner.com. Perfect way. Thank you so much, Sean, for being our guest. This is one of the, at least for me, one of the most enjoyable conversations I've had in a long time. So, listeners, I promised what I delivered. Sean kicked ass today. So make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to today's podcast, The Trust Doctor, Restoring Trust and Enriching Significant Relationships. And we will see you next time.
Once again, we've concluded another great episode of The Trust Doctor with Dr. Patty Ann. Tune in next week for more insights and advice on how you can create, nurture, and sustain healthy relationships. To find out more about the podcast, visit drpattyann.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Until next time.